So to summarize what it's like playing the Order 1886, I best well just show you. That's basically what it's like playing the Order 1886. It sort of starts you off in this really gritty, dark, mysterious world in 1886. Now, this isn't historically accurate. This is a more retro, sort of science fiction version of 1886. A lot of the weapons you're going to have are going to be a lot of prototypes using electricity as well as fire from a famous inventor and scientist, Nikola Tesla. So, with that being said, he's the one who's going to be supplying you with all your cool weapons. It's going to be really interesting, and he actually does have a big part in the story to play, which I personally enjoyed. Now, the developers paid really close attention to making the world that, although it wasn't a really close depiction of what 1886 was really like, they did their best to make it like a what if this could have happened, and here's how the world would react scenario. You have little tidbits in here that do sort of interweave with actual history itself. You're going to have the Tesla versus Thomas Edison debates, and that's sort of in the game to just, you know, again, further imply that, hey, our world, even though it's more science fiction oriented, it's not as gritty realistic, and it's more steampunk. It's very much, this is what really could have happened if this did indeed really happen in real life. So to summarize the story up, you basically play as Sir Galahad, who is a Knight of the Round Table. Now, the Knights themselves were basically developed by King Arthur himself to basically fight against the humans versus Lycan outbreak. There's a lot of half-breed people out there who basically at night they turn into werewolves or Lycans, and they must feed and stuff on other humans in order to survive. And it is your responsibility to restore the balance between humanity and the half-breeds themselves, and just to try to protect everyone. You basically are monster hunters, in a sense. Now, the Order itself has a different amount of authority from just your general political force that's out there, like the police and whatnot. You guys basically act on your own authority. You guys make your own rules, and you're basically known for going out there and taking on the tough jobs that no one else, out there is able to do. You guys also have advanced weaponry that a lot of people don't ever have. For example, you have an assault rifle that's really awesome, but it shoots this weird, it's like almost a, it's like this gas or something. It's this force and whatnot. So basically when you're shooting someone, you can press your R1 button, which is your secondary fire button, and it will stun an enemy, it will push him back. It's sort of your deflecting. Think of it, just pushes out a lot of air at once, so it pushes the person back and disorients them. And that's just one cool example. You also have this other weapon called the thermite rifle, which is like one of the best rifles in video games to date. Basically, you shoot this cloud of pellets around people that creates this gas, and you fire this flare, which then ignites everything where the gas is. And it's just a feast for your eyes. You know, when you definitely use these weapons, every single weapon feels realistic. It all feels exceptionally well to use. It gives this really satisfying kickback and feel from playing on the controller that really no other third-person shooter has done to date. I have to say that in terms of the gameplay and the way the weapons handle, as well as the shooting and everything, this has some of the best third-person shooting mechanics I have ever played in a video game. It's fantastic. This is the most frustrating thing at the same time with the Order, because there are flaws with the game that are just like, you know, it's sort of like you have some great gameplay, and then there's like flaws within the game itself that just it sort of doesn't mix well, right? And it's more frustrating because you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be like, wow, I'm having such a fun time playing this game, but why did they do this? And why did they choose to do that instead of this? And why would they even, you know, try to ruin it by doing this? It's a very frustrating game because the potential of what it could have been, it's fantastic. It would have easily been a Game of the Year contender, but I'm going to explain why it isn't later on in this review. Now, that's not to say The Order is a bad game. I want everyone to pay close attention to what I'm saying, because I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying that it's not a really great one either. So, getting back to the gameplay, the shooting mechanics in particular are some of the best shooting mechanics in any third person to date. The weapons and everything feel spot on. The accuracy that you have made. This game runs at 30 frames per second, and it feels incredibly smooth. I mean, like, all your guns and the way the controls are configured and whatnot, everything is just pinpoint accurate. It's extremely responsive, and it just feels great to play. So, and all the weapons have this great variety in the way that they feel, so it doesn't feel like, okay, I'm firing the same assault rifle that's over and over and over again. There's a great variety of weapons, as well as a great variety in the way that they actually handle, and they handle differently from others as well. So that's pretty important to have in this game, and they just did a fantastic job for that. Aside from shooting in The Order, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. All right, there's a lot of moments in the game where it's sort of downtime. You basically have to walk with your squad. You're going to be walking around this big, empty area that's, you know, well detailed and stuff. Especially when you look around, you're going to be noticing things that, wow, this is really great attention to detail. It's just that you don't do much within those worlds. It's like in the beginning of the game, you're walking through this, you know, this house, and you're like, wow, everything looks gorgeous, and it all looks pretty. You can interact with places like newspapers, and you can also interact with, you know, pictures and documents and whatnot to sort of enhance the lore and to let you know what is going on in the world during this time period as this fictional story is taking place. In addition to that, you can also collect these cylinders, these phonographic cylinders, which contain sort of, it's like a dialogue, right? It's like a recording dialogue, and you can play that back in the pause menu. That can further enhance the lore and give you some more information on the characters and whatnot, which is pretty freaking cool. It's just that in terms of you actually doing things, there is not a lot that you actually do in these segments. It's basically you walking around. Now, I didn't have a big problem with these parts. I didn't really particularly say I can get bored so much to the point where I just didn't want to play the game. But there's just a lot of downtime in this game, and it's not like by the end of the game, it doesn't reward you for any of that. Now, there is also QuickTime events in the game, and the QuickTime events are more than just your generic QuickTime events. Yes, there are time button presses, but at the same time, there are certain moments throughout the game where it'll give you a choice of where to go. It'll pause and slow down time, and you'll be able to look around the vicinity of where the QuickTime event is taking place, and you'll be saying, okay, well, here's a guy on the ground. I can either stab him with a knife, I can bash him in the head with a lamp, or I could just punch him in the face. And it's all up to how you want to play the scene. In addition to this, if you fail at, basically if you don't press a button correctly in time enough, the event will still continue. So if you miss a button prompt, the event, in many cases, will still play out and will allow you to, you know, further basically just kill them in a different way. So it's pretty cool. It's not like you failed to press the button, instant fail. There are moments in the game that have that, but most of the time, if you do miss a button prompt, you can just go back and, you know, or more so, it will just continue so you can still get a foothold in the fight or whatever that's happening with that QuickTime event. So that's basically the game. It's quick time events, you walking around, you exploring, or you picking up and identifying objects that really don't have much purpose. You'll pick up a picture, and the picture is a image of just some random family that you don't know, and you're just like, okay, what's the point of this? Or you'll pick up like a flask, and a lot of this is done just to say, hey, look at the graphics, look how realistic this looks. And so a lot of times you'll be picking up objects that have no real interest or any real purpose to the story or what's going on in the game. It's just for you to look at the graphics and whatnot. So that's really what the game is like. There isn't really multiple paths in the game at all. There's 1 or 2 instances in the game where, okay, you can walk around this side of the hallway instead of going straight this way, but there isn't really a lot of multiple paths. Everything is straightforward, it's linear. You can't really get lost playing the game. However, there are a certain number of secret areas in the game where, okay, you're exploring this confined area. Oh, I didn't know I could open this door, or I didn't know I can shimmy over to this ledge. So that's basically what's going on. It's sort of puzzle solving in a sense that way, but not done to the point where, okay, I gotta figure this out, and it's taking you a while. Graphically speaking, I'm just gonna put this out there. It's no surprise. The Order 1886, speaking about the environments themselves, it's completely photorealistic. When you look at an environment straight on and you try your best to remove the character from that environment, the amount of detail and whatever effects they used, it looks completely photorealistic. It looks like it actually is an actual, like you're actually watching a movie. The only thing that brings this game down to video game world and prevents it from going over the uncanny valley, for instance, is the fact that the character models still have that game look to them. They're highly detailed and they're excellent, and they have a lot of good, excellent facial animations. The character models are fantastic, and some of them look, the women especially, look extremely more realistic than the men do. But they still have that video game quality to them, to the point where you're like, I can still tell this is a video game just by looking at them. But without the characters in view and just looking straight at the environment, it looks completely photorealistic, and you wouldn't even be able to tell if it's a video game or not. They used an exceptional amount of post-processing effects, thanks to the 4X MSAA that they use for the anti-aliasing. This game has 0 to very minimal jaggies, especially when looking in the distance. Everything looks extremely smooth. The only thing that I noticed as far as jaggies go are the shadows in the distance, because the shadows, they do take up a lot of processing power, and so looking off in the distance, you'll notice, okay, some of the shadows look a little bit more jagged than the actual game does. But as far as just looking straight on, I mean, there's no anti-aliasing issues whatsoever, and that's due to the high, very costly for performance. It takes a lot of power to do 4X MSAA, especially for consoles. You know, that's a lot of anti-aliasing power, and the developers wanted that particularly to reduce the aliasing quality, and this definitely does add to the realism of the game, because you're not going to be seeing jaggies at all. The game does play in a 21:9 aspect ratio, so the general consumer is going to be using a 16:9 monitor, so you'll be playing with the cinematic black bars on the top and bottom of the screen. If you do have an ultra-wide monitor, it will fill the entire screen completely. So, perks for you guys who actually have ultra-wide monitors, you will be able to play this game in full screen in its full glory. And the game maintains a steady 30 frames per second. I noticed probably one dip out of my whole playthrough, and it was only for like a brief second during a lot of stuff that's been going on. So, looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. The story itself, let's get on to this. The story itself is very interesting. It starts off, you have really good, well-developed characters that you actually care for, and all these characters have personalities to them, so they're not all generic cliche cutouts. They all have great personalities to them, and you want to find out more about them. The most frustrating part about this game is the fact and how it treats you as a person who's experiencing this game. It's a story that feels like it ends literally in the middle of everything that's going on. It's a complete sequel-bait ending. I finished the game, right, and I'm just like, okay. I didn't know how I felt at first. An hour passed, and I kept thinking about the game. And as I kept thinking about the game, I just got more and more and more frustrated about all the unanswered questions I had, and basically how the game just ends without you even giving a somewhat satisfying conclusion. The ending looks epic. It's all cinematic, and it has this really epic emotional ending. But it's like you're so frustrated because it doesn't answer any of the questions, and it feels like it ends just straight in the middle, that you can't help but just feel angry at times. I mean, you'll feel more so like you wasted your time, or that you played like just half of the game. That's how I felt. I felt like I played half of the game, and the game just was like, whatever, you know. It's like, no, you know, I want to play more of the game. They didn't give you a complete story in this game. That was the most frustrating part of this game, is the fact that it starts you off, and the Order 1886 was supposed to be a story-driven experience, all about the narrative. It was all supposed to be very cinematic, and it was all about the story, but you wrote basically half the story. This game took me probably a little over 8 hours to finish this game, just a little over 8 hours. That was me playing on normal, and I was exploring every single nook and cranny of this game. I found all the newspapers on my very first playthrough. I almost found all the objects. I came very close. But just, I mean, by the time, it's like this game took me a little over 8 hours, alright? This game could have easily been 15 plus hours if they just fleshed out the story to make it complete. Instead, it ends what feels like halfway through the actual narrative itself, and it's like, buy the sequel when it comes, and it's a complete slap in the face. It's like, what the hell? You think I'm stupid? I mean, how can you talk about this narrative-focused game and that you're all about the story? I'm like, yes, okay, I love story. I love narrative-focused games. I don't care if it doesn't have a multiplayer mode or whatever. I'm interested in playing the story for this game. It looks very interesting. But you completely insulted by everyone by not including a full story. I just don't understand it. It's like, oh, you created this gorgeous, gorgeous game. This game plays extremely well, and you have this really interesting story with emotional, deep characters that all, you know, are well developed and whatnot, and then you just end it like that. And it really sucks. This game could have easily been 15 hours if they fleshed out the story. Easily. It could have been 20 hours even if they wanted to go that far. I mean, just to put it in perspective of how stupid some of the design decisions are. You have chapters in the game. There are 16 chapters total in the game. That sounds like a lot. But get this. Some of the chapters in the game are just cutscenes. There's no gameplay in some of the chapters. You'll be like, okay, chapter 6. You'll play it for a little bit, you'll watch a cutscene. Chapter 7, straight cutscene. Chapter 8, gameplay. And you're just like, what happened to Chapter 7? What happened to Chapter 6? It's all cutscenes. Again, like, I've never seen a game call a brand new chapter for, you know, the game progression. They call the brand new chapter, it's cutscenes completely. What other game has just put cutscenes for an entire chapter of their story? Like, this isn't a book. Alright? This is a freaking video game. Alright? And I don't care how long the cutscenes are, alright? I sat there for 2.5 hours watching the final cutscene in Metal Gear Solid 4. I can live through it, alright? But the fact that there's like stupid design decisions in there. A full, complete chapter. And this isn't just one chapter. There are multiple chapters that are just straight cutscenes. Straight 6 or 7 minute cutscenes. I don't mind the full cutscenes for the chapters, but you didn't write us a complete story. You didn't end it on a good note. It just basically ended halfway. It wasn't a complete story. So I don't care that, you know, I didn't care if okay, fine, you have chapters that are just straight cutscenes, but you didn't write us a complete story, and because of that, it's a problem. So to put it in short, the Order 1886 is it's a good game. It's a decent game. It's a decent game. It has some of the best third-person shooting gameplay of any game I've ever played. The controls are completely solid, and like they're just so refined. It's incredible. The game is extremely well polished. It looks amazing. It's one of the best-looking games I've ever seen. Completely photorealistic. The character models are fantastic. Yeah, you walk around in some of the levels, and it can get a little bit more tedious and boring. But I didn't personally mind that at all. But then it just ends, and it sort of like, buy the sequel. That's how it really feels. It's like, wow, I was really enjoying this. Thanks, I guess I'll just go play a different game. I just got increasingly more frustrated just playing this game, just thinking about it in the end. So that's all I wanted to say for the Order 1886. That's my quick review. Alright, do I think it's worth $60? No. When it's $40 or $30, that's fine, alright? But here's the thing, like, 15. You could have easily fleshed out a complete story with 15 hours. All right. You cut it down to 6 to 8 hours. It's probably more like 8 hours. All right, an 8-hour campaign. Let's just say. All right, that's fine. But again, there's no complete story, so it's even worse. There's no extra modes in here. There's no multiplayer. All right, and the thing is, like, this game you could have at least put a horde mode in here. And this gameplay is very solid. I mean, it's very solid gameplay. And the gameplay is good, and the gameplay is good enough to have a horde mode to the point where it wouldn't be repetitive. I would actually enjoy a horde mode in this game. Like, the gameplay was that, and the shooting was that fun. So, you know, it's just frustrating. I feel like the Order 1886 could have been easily a Game of the Year contender, could have easily had a 15-hour campaign, but you got the devs didn't do anything about it. As a story writer, I just want to ask this, like, as an aspiring story writer, how could you sit there and you know, it's like you told people, no, this is a narrative-focused game. This is gonna be all about the story, and we're really focusing on creating a great world. Fantastic. But why not write us a complete story? In what way did you find us giving us this ending, this insulting ending that feels just like it ended in the middle of all things? There's so many unanswered questions. So many unanswered questions. It's no wonder one of the developers who made this game said, if you don't get emotional by the end of the Order 1886, then you're probably cold-hearted. I couldn't get emotional because I was so frustrated at the way it ended. Not to mention the characters didn't have enough screen time. Some of the side characters didn't have enough screen time for them to be as well developed. So how could you expect me to get extremely emotionally involved in your game when A, you don't give me a complete story, and A, you don't flesh out some of the supporting cast of where the emotion takes place? I don't know. This is a decent game. I think everyone should play it, but the sequel, I mean, I swear, the sequel, which probably will be better, make it more open. You don't have to make it so linear, alright? You can make it a linear story, but make the levels more open. Put some multiplayer in there. This multiplayer would have been amazing, to be honest, alright? Or a horde mode. Put something in there, alright? And give us a complete story. Because this is bullshit. What we got with the Order 1886 is bullshit. It's a decent game, but you guys completely ruined it with this whole story and the way you ended it. It makes the whole experience feel like it's a worthless amount of your time. Like, I'll buy a narrative-focused game, that's fine, alright? I bought Remember Me, which was about 6.5 hours long. But Remember Me had a complete story. Remember Me had a great complete story. You guys have like an 8-hour game here that's really fun to play, but it just feels like it ends in the middle of everything. There's so many unanswered questions that I have right now. Now I have to wait like 2 or 3 years for you guys to make a sequel so I can finally, oh, okay, this is how it works. Or release some bullshit DLC. I don't know. I'm done talking about it. I'm going to give the Order 1886 a 3 out of 5. It's a decent game that is worth a pickup for you to play. The graphics are outstanding. It's a lot of fun to play. Just keep in mind that the story is going to frustrate you towards the end because you have so many unanswered questions, and it ends. Ah, fuck it. And that's what developers were like. Ah, fuck it. Whatever. I'm heading out. I'll see you guys later. Let me know what you guys think of the game. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5, and pick it up when it's a reduced price. That way you'll feel better. All right. Have a good one, guys.